Some women are simply born rich, confident, and naturally magnetic to their desires. Let's be clear, this podcast is not for them. However, if you're a soul-driven, visionary, or entrepreneurial woman who's been on a mission to learn how to create a better future bursting to come out of you, welcome to my world. I'm Jo Warwick, and this is Rich, Sexy, and Free. I've dedicated most of my career to helping women get to their core power and unlock the missing pieces for their own unique success. You may already know me as the author of The Big Book of Love. With 30 years experience in psychology, embodiment, manifesting, and energetics, we will be exploring together the keys to becoming rich, sexy, and free. So if this excites you, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform so you can stay up to date with the podcast. Hi, everybody. I'm so pleased today to have my very, very special guest, Claire Garner. It's lovely to have you here. And please tell everybody a bit more about yourself.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Jo. Thank you so much for having me. I am Claire Garner. Most people know me as the creator of the Real and Raw Leaders movement, the Dead Share Challenge, and now the creator of amazing global stages, virtually and in person, for other Real and Raw leaders to showcase their own human so that we all see the human behind the perception. And that's what my movement is all about.
And what does it mean to bring your human into being a speaker? What does that mean? How would that look?
It means sharing it all, right? It means not just having like a perfect picturesque pitch. Mm-hmm. It means allowing yourself to feel the emotions that you feel in any given moment. So whether that means you get nerves, whether that means that you maybe talk too fast, right? But you talk at speed like I do, whether it means that maybe you're a giggler, maybe you are quite exaggerated with your moves. Again, that's something that I am, but it's embracing all of it, whatever it is for you, and not apologizing for it, not trying to change it, but actually using it as your superpower and your uniqueness and sharing it with your audience.
I love that. That makes me think about like when I started speaking and the ways that I almost tried to contain myself at points. Yeah. And where I've also got better through practice. Because I am a fast speaker. I am definitely a giggler. I am definitely a swearer. I have been known to swear quite a bit when I'm speaking. However, I would also say by going through that process of accepting who I am, I learned how to do pace. And because actually I found that at times people didn't hear me, they didn't get me, but I needed to set myself free first. So is that what you're offering to your leaders? A place to set themselves free, to then master their skills? As
I have different stages for different people. So I have stages for seasoned speakers, and that is a place where they really get to, I call it deepen their vulnerability, right? So it's a lot of professional speakers. They have their keynotes, they have their signature talks, they know what they're saying, right? And that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But that's what they always say. And that's where they always go. And those are the same puns that they always use. Like everything is very scripted and rehearsed, and it's known. And I invite a different level of vulnerability. I invite a different level of depth and realness and rawness, and saying, okay, if you want to continue to use that speech, that talk, whatever it is for you, that's of course fine. But where can we bring more of your human? Where can we bring less of a script and more of you? So that the audience can connect with who you are, not just what you've been through, not just what you've overcome, not just the lessons that you've learned and how amazing and charismatic you are, but who you really are and what you really stand for and how you're really feeling right in this moment as well. And you might be the most confident speaker in the world, and that's great, but start sharing that as well. Start showing that and speaking about that so that the audience can connect with the human in real time, right in the moment. So that's one of the stages that I offer. And then the other is a platform for new speakers. So people who maybe are coaches, mentors, entrepreneurs of some kind, and they want to start sharing their story in a bigger way. They want to get out of the box of their content pillars. They want to start being known for who they are and what they stand for rather than what they do. And I give them a platform to start sharing that and to start stepping into that spotlight and owning their brilliance and their story and really turning that into their movement.
How did this unfold for you? So I suppose I would like to know, what is something that you perhaps saw as your biggest failure actually has become your biggest success in creating your movement, your belief for these women, these people?
I think what I perceived as my biggest failure at the time was definitely early this year when I was in the coaching space doing content and personal branding, and everyone on the outside saw this polished, picture perfect, fiery energy that I bore, and it was all from a very wounded space. It was all from a very, I don't give any fucks and I need everyone to know that I don't give any fucks, so I'm gonna be like even more in your face. And that was the energy that it was coming from. It was a very inner child kind of wound that was needing and wanting to be validated. That was the energy of it. And so whilst everyone saw that my business looked like it was blowing up, and it was on a trajectory to financially blow up, but the money wasn't there at the time, it was dribs and drabs, I was behind the scenes feeling very disconnected, very unfulfilled, very lost, very confused, and very inadequate, if I'm honest. You're looking at all of these other people in the industry thinking they've got the perfect life, it all looks amazing, why can't I have that? Why isn't that happening for me? And ultimately, I felt like a failure. I felt, what am I doing wrong? What's the missing piece? Who has got this secret sauce and they're not telling me? I'll pay them whatever, right? Give me the secret. Like, that's what it was. And it wasn't until, obviously, for those of your listeners who might know me and my story, that I really released all of that, and I went into a whole, what ended up being a month of just deep self-exploration, letting go of everything that I thought I knew, who I thought I was, what I thought I wanted to do and be in the world, and just release all of that and surrender to the unknown. And that ultimately transmuted that failure into the Real and the Raw Leaders movement being born.
And isn't that a perfect example of how you alchemize something? I think you connect with people so much better when you're able to do that. Now, I have removed all makeup today. Not that I'm a big makeup wearer, but I do always wear mascara, those certain things, eyebrows. I have a very pale face without it, rosy cheeks. And it's because my mum is perfectly made up. She comes from an era that she was a model. She is admired for the fact that she's always perfectly made up. Her mum was perfectly made up, and that is great. But my morning has started so far by a cycle ride on the beach wall, followed by a cold water swim and a walk with my dog. This is how I do self-love. This is how I show up. This is what aligns me to my power so that I can do things like this, so that I can hold big space. My mum doesn't do that. But because of the way she was brought up, her expectations of my need to be perfect and be the facade, the picture. And I did that for a long time. I had a brilliant performance, which I do believe has a purpose when used correctly. But I definitely see how my mum's beliefs and her way to survive in the world then impacted on me. Like a lot of women, we're expected to look a certain way. We're expected to show up a certain way. And I know, and I think about my experiences when I became a psychotherapist. I wore a suit. Like, that even just seems insane, the idea. And then I took that suit off and created another suit because I wore an outfit that had beads and flowy stuff. So I took on a hippie suit instead. But being given permission by myself that my voice matters, my power matters, I matter, whether I look good or not, that has been the biggest liberation for me. Mm-hmm. So what came from your childhood that was creating the limitation that you're now stepping beyond or using and alchemizing?
Yeah, oh my God, so many things. Firstly, I really want to mention this just because what you said there really brought this up for me. One thing that my mum used to say to me is, I remember being just a young adult, being out in the big wide world on my own, like having to do things like get your car fixed. And I specifically remember this situation. I didn't know anything about cars, I still don't, but she would be like, just take it to the garage and flutter your eyelashes. It's just that whole kind of ingrained belief of, because we're women, we should use this kind of sexuality to get something that we want, but also the way that can make us feel like a piece of meat, or as long as I look good, I'll get X, Y, Z result. So I just wanted to mention that because I resonate with that a lot. So something from my childhood, for me, it would probably be validation. So for as long as I can remember, I've always sought external validation to make me feel worthy, to make me feel like I'm enough, to tell me that I'm doing good, right? If I get the external results, whether that's likes on a reel, whether that's bums on seats, whether that's money in the bank, whether that's having a partner in real life, whatever it is, it was that tick in the box. It was like, okay, like someone sees me. Their actions are telling me that I am good enough, that I'm on the right track, that what I'm doing or who I'm being is okay and it's good enough. That was a massive thing for me, seeking validation all through my teenage years, constantly seeking it through boys and just never filling that hole, because obviously it had to come from me. I just didn't know that at the time. But it was only really this year that I've really been able to stop pedestaling other people because they earn more money than me, or they have a partner in their life and I don't, because they have a happy family, whatever it is, but stop pedestaling them and feeling like they're better than me, feeling like that means they're succeeding more than me in that aspect of their life. And it's only when I went through that journey of the void and the self-exploration that I was really able to release that need for external validation, and coming into the fact that I'm enough exactly as I am right now. And this was the journey. It was sharing a breakdown, for want of a better word, sharing that process of the messy middle, knowing where I was going or how long I was going to be there and all of this stuff, but sharing it and saying, this sucks, basically. Like, this doesn't feel very good, but I want to share it because I want you to know that if you feel this, you're not alone, firstly. So giving other people that sense of validation, but also to show that this is a moment. There's that saying, and it's so cliche, but this too shall pass. This
My mum's favourite saying of all time. And it's so true. It's so true.
It's so true. Yeah. And being able to show that there was light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how long it took, but it was okay. And I was good enough, even in that mess, even in that dark period. And that was really a turning point for me.
So true. The other favorite saying, and both of those sayings have absolutely wisdom from passed on from my mum to live with, but is from the Oh My Khayyam, the moving finger writes and once writ moves on.
Ooh.
Which is so true. I saw something this morning, a brilliant video on Basha, who was talking about, if people don't know, Basha is channeled by Daryl Anker. And he was talking about the difference between depression, compression, when you need to go within. He called it compression. I've always called it with the tide, because when you look at the tide, when you look at the sea, when you look at the moon, everything is tidal. You can't always be looking out. And when you're empty, you look for external validation. But when you get used to the tide comes in, which is what the female cycle is supposed to do, which is what we're supposed to go through, is these wonderful times of, I'm going to go in and I'm going to cry and I'm going to rage and I'm going to clear out the cupboard. But again, our society has programmed us to somehow feel that's bad. But this space and this time to allow yourself to compress, to go within, to tidy up the cupboard, because you wouldn't do it in your house. You don't leave your house as a shit show and never clean or tidy. So why would you do it with your own house, your mental, emotional, physical house? And if you don't do it, of course, what you end up doing is wading your dirty laundry around everybody, but not realizing it. Like you said you were doing. You were shouting. There was almost a teenage shout from you. Look at me. Look at her. Oh, fuck you. I don't need you. But when we tidy on the inside, and it takes time, I remember making absolute peace eventually with the crying. When I started crying, God, a million years ago now, when I started at 30, it was the first time I owned my voice. I was speaking about the pain and the trauma. 30 years is a long time to bottle things up. And you start to cry. And you think, fuck, it's never going to end. It's never going to end. But like all grief, of course, it does end. And it does pass because you don't need it anymore. But I remember getting used to my body, just hearing my body as it was crying, but I was just watching it, like in some sort of going, oh no, we just need to let this out. Let the mess out, because the body's so beautifully designed. And that's definitely, I would say, my journey is accepting that my body is this incredible processing machine. Given the chance, it will go, oh yeah, we don't need that. We'll get rid of that emotion that's been blocking us, just like it does with the digestive system, just like it does with the breathing. So we can express ourselves. So we can then share what we need to from those vulnerable moments that we are
So
human.
true. Yeah, I'm just thinking now about my youngest. She's 8 and she's got a severe attachment anxiety at the moment. So when I take her into school, it's not fun. It's like they have to literally prize her off of me. So I'm working with the school to try and help facilitate things that are going to make her feel more comfortable with the process of going in and physically letting go of me. That's the problem. But also linking that to what you're saying, Jo, it's like we've been told since childhood that we shouldn't feel these things, that big girls don't cry. That's nothing to cry over. You don't need to be feeling like that. It's okay. You'll forget about it when you take your mind off it and go into the class and start doing work. No, you won't forget about it. You'll suppress it and then it'll come up later, probably at home in a massive tantrum that I'll have to deal with. But these are the things that now we're in our midlives, we're like, wow, okay, like how do I start changing that and owning that actually it is okay. It is okay to feel and to share these things when I feel them.
Absolutely. What we can do as parents, what we can do as teachers, what we can do, it used to be my subject matter as a child and family therapist, that being okay, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You don't have to be, you only have to get it right 40% of the time. You can fuck it up 40% of the time, as long as you take 20% to repair. But the biggest way that we cause that problem is, I can't handle your emotions, so I'm going to shut you down. And tears have a space. Tantrums are incredibly important in anybody's human development for empowerment. So learning how to hold a space when somebody's a toddler and a young person. If you haven't done that, of course, it's much harder when they're teenagers. So then you're going to get a lot more of a backlash. But they are important. How do I handle my own emotion? I've got all this big energy in my body and I can't express myself. And so, yes, we're talking about how to help people who never got that chance. Your field is working with people who are entrepreneurs and coaches and things like that. That how do you move beyond that as the adult now trying to step out on stage and utilize that power is quite a big thing.
I think it's the world is your stage, right? A lot of people will say, what kind of stage? And it's, what kind of stage do you want? You can do an Instagram live and it be your stage. You can do a YouTube show and it be your stage. You can be talking to a friend in your everyday life and it be a stage. So I think that work, you can make it whatever you want that to be as well.
Absolutely. And learning where and when it's safe and it's good and you feel right to share. What would you say is the key to knowing that discernment about when to share that vulnerability?
I always say desire. It has to come from desire. And I say this all the time. If you have no desire to share something, don't share it. No one's forcing you to share things that you do not want to share or that you have no desire to even talk about. That's pointless. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help someone else because there's no desire there. But I believe your desire is your soul's calling. It's your soul's whisper. It's the thing that we're meant to follow. That's why we have it. What other purpose is there for it? It's a North Star. It's like a thread that you're meant to follow. And so if you desire to share something, then share it. And I think for me, that's the only discernment that I use. Do I desire to or not? If I do, then I let that be the only criteria that I need.
I love that. I would definitely say there's that process of when I have shared things and I'm left feeling a bit exposed. And there have been times when I've also stepped out beyond my fear when I first started writing. And you can still find me on Tiny Buddha and all those things. But my biggest post that made the biggest impact was when I shared from such a raw place, but I still felt the desire to do it. And that was the difference. There was a desire, but there was also a massive amount of, oh my God. But I was able to be aware that the fear was, it's not real. The world doesn't end. The world doesn't end if you share something. But the desire was just slightly bigger than the fear. Of course, over time, it got easier and better. And knowing it with practice, of course, it does get better.
And I think it's just like pushing that edge, right? Like of the fear. And we all have fear. It's a very human feeling. It's never going to go away. It will change, and your level of threshold of comfort will evolve and will expand. But whenever you're stepping out of that or you're stretching it, fear is going to come up. So it's learning to walk hand in hand with the fear. And like you said, Jo, the desire being able to be stronger, like being able to almost bat it down, right? No, like I'm leading, like I'm taking over here. You get in the back seat, we're driving. And I think for me, it's when we can start to just push that edge, no matter where it is that you're sharing, whether it's in content, in a talk with friends and family, in your real life, whatever it is, just pushing that edge of the desire and the fear and the vulnerability and saying, okay, I'm just going to go a little bit more, just going to go a little bit more, because it's in that space. This is, from what I would say, is probably why that post was your most powerful post, because it's in that space that we feel the human. We relate and we see ourselves in that person, and we remove the gap. It's not, oh, she's an author, or oh, she's someone living this incredible life, she's nothing like me. It's, oh, she is like me. She is normal. She is going through her own things, and yet she still has an incredible life. She still does all these things. That's the nuance, and that's the power of sharing in that space.
That's so true. That's so true. In that process of finding my voice, writing was such a great way of exploring my boundaries. And I find it's funny because my voice was found through my writing, and yet my overcoming of fear was actually through my body. So I find that doing physical activities a great way of learning how to be okay with fear, and almost like it's in the car. It's like a little kid in the car. And it's go back in your car seat. You're there for a reason, and I'm meant to take care of you. But you need to be back in your car seat. Stop getting in the driving seat. This isn't safe for you to be there. This morning, a fear came up when I was swimming because it's very cold at this moment, very cold. And I'm not wearing very much. I've got to listen to my body, not my mind, because is my body telling me I can stay in a little bit longer in this cold water? I trust myself. I've got a routine. I know how to put my clothes on. I know what to do. I know how to warm my body up. It's like over time with practice, learning that was very essential for me, because in my youth I was an extremist. It was so irregulating to my nervous system. It made me feel so unsafe. But I did the same thing in relationships. When I was in my youth, I would walk towards danger. It was like, oh, he looks like a big dark bad boy, let's go spend some time with him, shall we? As though I was trying to prove to myself I wasn't afraid of the dark. But I was afraid of the dark because I wouldn't go within. I didn't want to face my inner darkness.
Yeah, same. I relate so much to that. As a teenager, I was such an adrenaline junkie. I remember my dad always tells this story. So I grew up in North Devon, in England, for those of you not here. And it's on the coast, and there's all these cliffs and things like that. And I must have been maybe 10. And he tells this now to this day. He goes, I was just stood there and I looked down, and there you are climbing up this cliff face. Like, no, nothing attached to me. I'm like 10 years old. He's obviously having a heart attack. I had no fear back then. It was just like, I want the adrenaline. And I think probably a lot of that comes from, what does it come from? You're the psychologist, Jo. Where does that stem from?
It usually comes disassociation from your body. So
okay.
when you're younger, how unlimited you are as a soul, but you haven't landed into your body. So you need to have the heightened edges to feel alive.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I was definitely all about that when I was younger, but I found the older that I got, the fears got stronger. So it was like, I used to be one of these people where I would go on any ride at the fair, like whatever it was, the scarier the better, I would be on it. Whereas now I'm like, nah, I don't want to go on. It's like the fear, I find, gets harder to conquer the older that I've got. And it's only when the desire is strong enough that I'm able to do it. And I gave this example yesterday on my own podcast, actually, where I used to be so scared of flying to the point I would have to have Valium. I would only go on one holiday a year. It would not be further than 4 hours was like my absolute max. Categorically, no more than that. I couldn't be excited about a holiday because I would be so scared about the flight. My kids couldn't even talk to me on the plane because I would just have to zone out. It was horrendous. It was so bad. But I had no major desire to overcome it because it was once a year and it didn't stop me going on holiday. It was just very uncomfortable. But once a year, I could deal with it. And it was only when I really landed into my future vision and where I want to go with my business, and I want to create stages across the world. That means flying. That means a lot of travel. And I also knew that version of me, flying wasn't a struggle. It wasn't a battle. It was just an okay everyday thing. And so my desire became really strong to overcome the fear. And that's the only time that I was able to actually do it.
That's such a great example. I remember hearing Abraham Hicks say, life is either making you feel desire or giving you the desire. And that's as simple as it is. You get what you want, or you keep seeing what's in the way so much so that the desire overrides everything.
Yeah, sometimes desire is hidden even in discomfort, right? It's like, hey, this doesn't feel comfortable, but it's better than the uncomfortable that I was in.
Yeah, I totally get it. Sometimes you've just outgrown your clothes.
Yeah, you're clinging on to like your teenage years, and that doesn't fit you anymore, like emotionally, physically, mentally, none of it.
It always makes me think of this fantastic cartoon I saw of this little girl who's holding a teddy bear and Jesus is on his knees in front of her, and behind his back he's got this epic-sized teddy bear, and he's saying to her, just let go, give me the teddy bear.
Oh,
and I always think that's such a brilliant image that I'm just gonna let go.
100%. It's like the only way through is through that discomfort. Like that's honestly, I remember saying this in the middle of it. I possibly even went live and said it, and I was like, this feels so freaking hard. It feels so uncomfortable, that I know on the other side it has to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because this is horrendous. Basically, that's how it felt. It felt heavy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. For people listening, it's not comfortable going through that, but you know that it's worth it to get to the other side.
And also, I think people don't talk enough about how having your own business is an extension of this journey of permission to be me. They don't talk about the dark feelings when you're on your knees going, where the fuck am I? As you said, has somebody got the secret sauce? I don't know. But the secret sauce you had to discover is your own internal power.
Yeah, but none of us are perfect. None of us are. And we all have that happen to us like over and over again, right? Yeah. If we're growing, we're expanding as entrepreneurs, that's what we're all doing in this world. We're gonna have that come up over and over again. And the more that we share about that and show that, the more that we say, this is okay, this is normal, doesn't make you less of a leader, doesn't diminish your authority, it connects on a deeper soul level. And really that's what business is all about, right? Connection.
It's a big thing. So Claire, your final thoughts for today?
Final thoughts are, don't be afraid to follow your desire. Don't be afraid to share what you really want to share. Put your blinders on, listen to you, know what's you and know what isn't you, and follow that golden thread. Follow that calling, follow the purpose, because that is what your soul is here to do and to experience.
Yeah. And I would simply add to that, of course, when you do that, you step into new levels of abundance every single time. The true meaning of this is called Rich, Sexy and Free, and that the true meaning of that richness of life comes every single time. And of course, you become more vibrant, more energized, more sexy, and more free, because you're stepping beyond every time into that expanded state of yourself. Yeah, so beautiful. Claire, could you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, probably Instagram is the best place. I'm not on there very much, but I do check my DMs every day. It's at Clare Garner Official is the best place to come and get me. And I'm always open, right? I am an open book. I'm always here to have a conversation.
Where can they find your podcast?
So Spotify or Apple, and that is called Raw and Real.
If you want any of the beautiful podcast platforms, you can find everything in the show notes. It has been a wonderful conversation, Claire. I'm delighted to have you here. And for the listeners, it's been great to connect with you today. If you want to find out more about how I can help you personally, simply go ahead and visit richsexyandfree.com. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the podcast.